Democratic presidential primary in Ohio were held today, whom would you support if the candidates are Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders?
This is the fundamental question in election polling. But what do the results actually tell us? Well, it depends on how long prior to actual voting the poll is conducted. Events like debates, endorsements, and new ads can change the course of a campaign from the time a poll is conducted to the day votes are cast. After all, candidates don't stop campaigning just because a poll is being done. So it helps to dig a little deeper. Pollsters are interested not only in who's ahead, but how many voters are solidly behind each candidate, and how many are on the fence. So there's another question often asked in pre-election polls, and this one measures the strength of a voter's commitment to a candidate, the intensity of support.
Would you say you strongly support Bernie Sanders, somewhat support Bernie Sanders, or do you think you might vote differently on primary day?
If you want to know where a contest stands at any given point in time, the first question tells you how many people support each candidate and how many are undecided. The second question, intensity of support, then gives us an idea of how many voters are likely to stick with their choices or switch to another candidate as the campaign unfolds. So, by adding the proportion of people who say that they are undecided with the proportion of those who say they may vote differently, we get the number of voters who are up for grabs, the persuadables. Let's take a look at how this all played out in the early stages of the 2020 Democratic primary. In the Marist poll surveys done of South Carolina and Texas, a bit more than a week ahead of each state's primary, Bernie Sanders trailed Joe Biden by 4 points in South Carolina and led him by 15 in Texas. And Sanders showed the highest intensity of support among likely voters, 72% in South Carolina and 68% in Texas. But with 24% of South Carolina and 23% of Texas likely voters considered persuadable, there was plenty of room for movement as each primary day neared. And so, when Biden scored a series of big endorsements just prior to each primary, those persuadables moved and gave Joe Biden much better results than week-old polls had shown. So to be clear, persuadables tell us about the potential for change. While many voters have firmly held opinions, there are others who remain open to another choice. High intensity of support tells us how big a base a candidate can depend on, while lower intensity hints at the potential that the candidates and the campaigns may be able to change minds before Election Day.